Continue to review issues in the news this morning. Following public outcry, the federal government has reviewed the presidential pardon list, dropping the names of Maryam Sanda and 54 others. Now, in keeping with the provisions of the Constitution, Section 175 does grant the president powers to exercise the prerogative of mercies, either to commute sentences, grant reprieves, or outright pardons in terms of clemency. And while Section 212 does grant state governors the same power following consultations with the Council of State and State Advisory Councils respectively. Now, off the back of this, to discuss this and all the stories, we have live in our studio Yusuf Muyideen. Good morning to you, Yusuf, and welcome back to the studios.
Good morning, listener. It's a nice time
viewers, rather.
Mr. Viewer, sorry. And Mr. Brian, it's been a while.
Now, the last time you were here, that was when this news broke. And I was quite intrigued by your position on this. And I did cite the fact that families who feel this is an injustice to them, the nations as a whole, would not really take this decision lightly, as if I did know. And then just a few days down the line, the government of the day has decided to even shift the prerogative of Mercy Secretariat to the Ministry of Justice. Citing a probe as to how some names found their way on that list. Let's get your reactions to this development.
You know, that day when we are discussing this issue, I made mention that the president doesn't have, is not working alone on this issue if you revisit the clip. And sometimes some people are working in government and they find a way to even sabotage the same government they are working for, or they have a vested interest in some key names that find its way into those lists. But one thing that I brought to our foray is, on that day, is that there is a new universal best practice in time of correctional centers as to when inmates have shown a little bit of decorum while they are serving their time, and if they are shown such, is a prerogative constitutional duty of the prison to observe using all parameters, and they have the power as stipulated in the Constitution to be a judge in that case, because they are the ones that are with the prisoners on a daily basis and know the activities that. And I made mention of that. Some people acquire skills, even degrees, while they are in prisons. And if those people have turned a new leaf in their behavior, the correctional services, as the name implies, can suggest, they have the constitutional power to suggest to the government as to what to do to those inmates in such instances. But having said that, the reversal from the government as to the names on those lists and moving it to the Ministry of Justice shows that the government has a listening here, as if any policy is being taken or any decision is being taken by the government and does not go well with the citizenry, the government can retract its step and listen to the people in the nation as to what people really want. Because student of government and political science, we know that the government itself is the decision of the people. You cannot govern, the power to govern is derived from the people. So this government has shown that it has a listening here and has listened to the people's call as to some criminal element, like the murder case, hard drug addicts and armed robbers who find their way into those lists. And now there will be a sponge. Then those people who smuggle those names into will be found out, because moving it to the Ministry of Justice, they will have to investigate as at how those names find its way into that particular list. I think the government has done the right thing by retreating itself from the public outcry. So no government exists in vacuum without the people. And that's what the government has demonstrated so far.
I'll borrow from your last statement. No government exists in a vacuum without the people and listening to the cries of the people. Our next topic on discourse this morning is the position of ASUU. News making rounds is that the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation has processed funds in the tune of 2.3 billion naira to clear batch 8 salaries and promotion arrears owed to universities across Nigeria. This announcement was made by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, yesterday, October 29th. You had called for different approaches to resolving the ASUU issue. But it seems as though the instrument as employed by ASUU has yielded some level of compliance on the part of the government.
You know, there was a time ASUU embarked on strike, and they called a meeting with the federal government, and ASUU refused to attend the meeting, citing that a particular person on that panel, they can't sit down because of the track record of such individual. In this case, the government of the day is on its way towards solving ASUU problem before ASUU went to strike. Why I stand where I stand is that the government have shown interest, a vast interest in developing and moving our education level, especially the tertiary institution, to the next level. I've just opposed the NEL fund several times. One of the key components of complaints of ASUU over the year is student welfare. And you know, the NEL fund has come to settle that. University autonomy is not something that only the government can handle, because ASUU has its own attitude.
You know, when you say one of the key needs of ASUU is students' welfare, you take away the role of NANS. ASUU is more concerned about lecturers' welfare as against students' welfare, don't you think so?
NANS is just a social club. They don't have the constitution.
But you don't think that ASUU would prioritize students' welfare above lecturers' welfare, so that we do not...
You see, when labor agitator go to town, they normally want to drag the people around them into the... Like now, they will say there's no road, but the real thing they are fighting for maybe their own personal... So they will add one of the things that ASUU has always put in their demand. That is
why I'm tilting you away from one of the things is because there's an outstanding 2009 federal government ASUU demands, and when you look at that list, students' welfare is not entirely on it.
And so I was having a breather as to arrive at that particular... Now, the Minister of Education allows us, made it categorically clear, proliferation of universities as expanding our university landscape should be stopped for now, so that we can have a holistic approach as to what do we have and how do we manage our resources based on the number of universities that we have. He made mention of a particular university having only 800 students.
But the government still approved a new university in Owerri, Imo State.
They are private university.
It doesn't matter being private or public. If you're putting a policy and saying we should not...
Private are not run with government's money. Private are not run... ASUU, you can see in the private university space, ASUU does not thrive. When they go on strike, private university don't go on strike because they have their own labor relation with their staffs. So what the government is just doing, what I'm just trying to just oppose is that the government has suspended the profession of university by National Assembly member for I want to take federal university to my locality, and you have bogus number of university that have no commensurate functionality. And some of the universities are taken to election whereby the number of people that even go to the university as to number of staff is about 200% variation. So what I'm just trying to say is that the government has already put up a systematic approach to address the demand of ASUU over the year. Why I said the ASUU should look for another approach is that they can key into that particular approach. And I made mention of TED Fund, the establishment of TED Fund as a intervention agency in the university setting. Now, TED Fund, for instance, can be set up, a particular body like TED Fund can be set up to take care of the manpower incentive in the university space, to take care of how these university staffs will be remunerated without resorting to year in, year out strike that give ASUU a bad name as the people that... The damage the strike has caused to the Nigerian university system is too enormous for us to continue in that strike in this modern era. That's my own stand. Because the moment you lose a second in your life, you cannot gain it back. So if in 40 years, ASUU went to strike and out of school for 10 years, it does not 25% of the time that ASUU is supposed to be in school, they are on strike. And it's in 40 years. So the time wasted is not commensurate with the achievement that ASUU has gained so far. That's my take. And in all over the world, there are many countries that have, like in Japan, they have a system. Japan have a better education system. How do they manage the staff and the government relationship? How do they manage our education system? We can borrow a leaf from a clime where they are doing well. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, in the Asian tiger like Indonesia, even in South Africa close to us here, many of Nigeria are working there as lecturers because of the good condition of service. How do the workforce and the labor union react to government. Is it that they don't have problem there? They do have problem, but they have fine-tuned a way and modality at which they solve that problem without physical rancor that is associated with ASUU year in, year out. That's what I'm saying.
Now, to talk about additional government commitments under these funds disbursed, 2.3 billion naira, which institutions are set to expect shortly, is third-party remittances. The government is also finalizing the release of non-statutory deductions and pension remittances to the Nigerian University's pension management company. What do you make of this?
You see, if all those parameters are on ground, ASUU have intelligent people. ASUU, like the issue of IPPIS that they are talking about, that they should not be on IPPIS, they have been struck out of it. So, that's why I say government, by and large, are taking steps to make sure that. So, I think they should meet at the round table where they will have a tete-a-tete on issues that are prevalent to the ASUU problem, so that will be, my own take is just, don't give our education system a bad name, because we have one of the, if everything goes smoothly, our education system will have been one of the best around the world because of the product that ASUU has thrown out all over the year. People who come from the Nigerian university space have excelled outside this country in various fields, and it shows that if we had not gone on those strikes, the quality would have been better than what we currently have. And that's my take. Time wasting. The strike should no longer be the issue. Other mechanism of labor dispute resolution should be employed. If they do, like now what the government is, that I said, the government has tabled more than 5 of their need, and they are solving it one after the other. And I've told you that they can still go to the table with government and even get better ground as to what their needs are, other than at every moment you go on strike. And sometimes when Buhari was the president of this country, they try to dare ASUU that yes, you can go on strike as long as you like. When you are tired of the strike, you go back to school. And they say they invoke the no pay, no work, no pay philosophy into the realm, and they deny them almost 4 months salary, which this government, when they came, if you look at one of the things that has been fulfilled, that 4 months salary, which was withheld by the Buhari government now, has been released to them. So all those things are things that the government is doing. So I think the ASUU and its minders should come down of their IOS. We have a nation to build.
Now, still sticking with another story emanating from the education sector, there was mild drama during a House of Representatives investigative hearing as it involves the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, a delegate, and then some other of his colleagues staged a walkout, and they staged the walkout citing that there were journalists in the room and there was sensitive information to be disclosed at that representatives hearing, and it was not nice to be disclosed in the full glare of the media. First off, I'd like to get your honest opinion on that body language of what that sends out.
Sometimes, that in every settings all over the world, there are some things that are classified, information that are classified.
So you think that the House of Representatives would not have thought it wise, if that was the case, to have a closed door session? Is that what you're implying?
In the barbarian era, when people want to discuss issue, 1 million people come to a space and everybody will be shouting. If 1 million people are speaking simultaneously, you will not hear anybody. That's the barbaric era. But as human civilization evolved, a lot of fine-tuning as to the way we do our thing come up. There's some information that you don't need to let out. So if you don't let out those information, it's able to manage the system. And there are some information that are very dangerous, like the genocide in Rwanda is information that was let out.
But Mr. Yusuf, let's not misinform persons. We're talking about a bicameral legislature in the country where both chambers, during deliberations, once they get to issues of sensitivity, have closed door sessions. But when there is a probe to uncover certain discrepancies, and an investigative panel is set and the journalists are invited for transparency, in keeping with some of the Freedom of Information Acts that we have imbibed. Don't you think that the reps would have known that, other than have a walkout stage by JAMB delegates?
The judiciary is the last call of the common man. And the Supreme Court is the highest bench that normally discharge justice in the judicial system. And they normally have panel of 5 men that will do the final judgment. If they after taking from both sides, from the 2 sides that came to their panel for adjudication, before they will bring up their finding, they normally go behind the closed door as to look at the nitty-gritty of the presentation that have been made to them. So looking at those nitty-gritty, it will take the 5-man panel to bring up the reason, stipulating area of law as to the decision they will agreed out. And they will now subjected that particular, they will now come out to the public space to subject that particular findings to vote.
All right, now hold your thought. Let's get some of the insights into the images greeting our screens and hear some of the issues that embroiled during the House of Representatives panel hearing before the delegates stage their walkout. Take a listen.
As sensitive informations and that we don't require the presence of press men. Kindly give us benefit of that they should excuse us, please.
One thing the committee will not take from any agency is when the agency refuses to submit documents that were requested by this committee in line with Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
The National Assembly has requested that JAMB should furnish us with certain details of the income and expenditure, including whatever sources of revenue that they have gotten, and they chose to walk out on the National Assembly.
Looking at the whole scenario, of course, it's already obvious JAMB has something to hide. This is the 10th Assembly, and we have decided that as the 10th Assembly, we are not going to tolerate all this trying to evade our questions, and they make certain comments that would actually prompt for further investigation, and they think they can just walk away. This time it's going to be different.
It's not the right for JAMB representative to say they want a meeting closed door and that they want to see the chairman in camera. These are the things that they put the National Assembly members into trouble. Why must you see the chairman behind doors? We like being open because this is public money, and public money ought to be accounted for.
Questions of accountability and transparency when it comes to public finance management. An agency of government saddled with admissions into tertiary institutions. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board issues bordering on income, revenue, and spendings under probe. And you heard the lawmakers giving their different sides as to what they have deduced from that. It is public money. Yeah. You are also tilting towards the side of JAMB, saying some information are sensitive.
Yeah.
When it comes to, you still stand there.
Let me tell you, JAMB is an examination body that's evolved e-exams, and is a very high-tech exam. There are a particular part of ICT that you don't need a particular type of application. Wait now.
We're not talking about the applications here. We're talking about monies.
How much? If I want to give you the set of...
How much was paid by the students who registered for JAMB? In terms of transparency, how many students registered? How much did you get in the 2025 JAMB registration? Yeah. How did you spend such monies? The body saddled to investigate that. The National Assembly has called you for a probe and you're working out because you cannot provide the documents to back your claim. Why do we allow such impunity?
I'm on a national television. There are some things I will not tell you, but I will not say here because we can't continue to wash our dirty linens in the glare of the public. But the National Assembly has defect in its duty because you are supposed to play a vital role in checks and balances. If JAMB is doing anything, they bring the budget to you to peruse through that budget. They have House Committee that is on education, and they will have a subcommittee that deal with JAMB issue inside that National Assembly. Now, this is the problem we used to have in this country. We are supposed to be proactive. We should do more of preventive in terms of corruption than when the head has been cut off. Then maybe some people who feel maybe left out of the old deal will now already want to, and you bring in the press. There's a lot of things that's happened. For JAMB to have the nerve to walk out of the National Assembly, there is still a lining issue. So if we come to this particular forum and want to give analysis, we should go to the nitty-gritty. You can't just ambush people overnight. where you're supposed to...
They were not ambushed overnight,
No,
Mr.
you see,
Yusuf. Let's get the narrative right.
Like now, if I want
letters were written requesting for this information. Times were given before the commencement of investigative hearing. It's not a phone call to invite you to come for investigative.
A closed door.
No, that's not what he said. He said,
is it a public hearing?
Yes, it's a public hearing. That's why the press were invited.
Now, when the press were invited, now the information you request, I can be on the desk. Like now, we have agencies in Nigeria that are classified in terms of their operation.
Is JAMB classified?
What they are doing, anybody that is doing and doing cyber, if there is a possibility of cyber attack. That's
why I put it to you that it was not cyber, it was on income and revenue, not cyber. One of the
mainstay of JAMB now, they are a trailblazer in terms of exams in Nigeria.
That's not it. Even if you're conducting the exam, at the point of sale and collection, whether you collect the money via POS or you collect it via electronic transfer, we're asking at the point of bookkeeping, what does your book say? That it's a simple question.
All JAMB payments as 2005 are done electronically.
What is the bookkeeping? What's the audit say? When you do an audit,
the National Assembly has the prerequisite power through the central bank to checkmate all account dealings of National Assembly.
Do you see a reason why the National Assembly wants the press? They are not a closed door meeting where accusations of money changing hands would have been made.
I'm not taking side with JAMB, but what I'm saying is that there's more to the reason why JAMB will stage a walkout. It may be true to some technicality of the information they have, which may be associated with their work that has to do with. Now, if you want to tell me the page,
let's not dwell on assumptions here. Let's move forward. You're dwelling on assumptions.
The National Assembly itself has not come out with any fact as to why they are trying to check.
But you know the due process. When you spot or sense a rat, you give room for the persons accused to defend themselves. They make their presentation before you take whatever facts you say you have and theirs and juxtapose it for fairness and equity in judgment. But let's not dwell on assumptions here, because you're assuming that there might be this and that.
Let me give you facts. In these two statements that those ASUU Assembly had made, emotional intelligence and statement analysis shows some people have been left out. If you employ expert, they say their leader will be put in trouble. In their statement now, just now. This is how they put some of their leader in trouble. The leader, what does the leader know? That the JAMB want to see him in private. So please, there are some things that we have to use intelligent quotients. We have to use best universal and forensic outlook. So there are so many concepts in town as to how we solve problem. The National Assembly has some attitude, and it's your attitude that will determine your attitude in life. So why we must go to the nitty-gritty of the issue to hear from JAMB as to the reason why they want to see the. There are so many things.
But you know one thing for the benefits of the common man watching. Let's not go academical.
It's not academic. It's just from what I
hold on, Mr. Yusuf. Yeah. Hold on. If you have members of press waiting outside, just the same way after the panel, the members of the panel granted interviews.
Yeah.
The JAMB persons who staged the walkout should have also granted an interview to the press, because we're the fourth estate of the realm, and we're the closest link between the common man and the academic jargons that go on as to why these technicalities are in place. If you cannot break down that information, this discussion I'm having with you is entirely useless to the common man.
And I want to tell you one thing: there are some information in JAMBs that should not be made the public. Because of the...
I disagree with you, especially when it comes to public money.
Technical.
That's why I'm making the record straight. It's not technical. This is public money.
MTN.
Remember that this year, JAMB, a lot of persons were left in jeopardy following technical glitches.
Yeah.
Exams were rewritten.
Yeah.
You cannot measure the amount of emotional trauma on families.
Yeah.
And if there's a panel to probe this, it was almost the same line we told with this presidential pardon, and we're back here again to discuss it.
You see,
so let's not dwell on this too much.
You don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. What I'm saying is, let's look at it from all perspectives so that we can arrive at a very amiable conclusion. I'm not saying that the JAMB, they are right by staging a walkout. Let me tell you one thing. If we want to go to that lane, there are so many parastatals in this country that are not doing well. Do you know as to why is the reason that this same National Assembly are not probing them?
In terms of legislative oversight?
In all ramifications, they are not living up to the bidding of Nigeria. You know, you're not getting the request services that they are, and they have National Assembly members who are supposed to be saddled with the responsibility. But why JAMB own is different? Because they are their services are tied to the growth of people in life, and year in year out, people transact with them. Anytime they have little problem, they must come for them to come and give account. But there are so many facets of our life that are not doing well, that this same National Assembly are supposed to oversee. And that, like, look at insecurity, for instance. Just yesterday, the National Assembly bringing in some new service chief, and they confirmed them.
Confirmed new service chiefs.
When they are doing the confirmation, the theater of war, what are the technicalities? What are the timeline? What are really the problem that we have? We are not discussed. They just give a new service chief in town. They will come. Some of them they will fail.
So you're querying
the entire National Assembly needs to
process in screening of names sent from the presidency by the National Assembly.
There are the public the length of time as to what did the initial services reel out on how they will operate when they did not subject them to the type of
thorough
screening as to, okay, this particular theater of war in Maiduguri, now we have been there for 15 years. What will you do different? Give us a timeline. You know, in other climes they will do that. So it's the same National Assembly that is doing that.
Now this tilts towards an earlier argument about the take a bow and go, which most of your persons in your party, the APC, said it was in keeping with what they call it, the credibility of party members sent by the president to the National Assembly. So are you taking a U-turn on your position on this matter?
You see, the minister comes from, even as it is now, many of the ministers that are in this government are they are not basically APC ministers. And to take a bow and go is as a result of, if you look at somebody that have an impeccable record over the years, or maybe member of National Assembly who is a colleague. So as a source of camaraderie, the National Assembly can tell one of their colleagues that, okay, Vince, we know you are here with us, and you have been a part of us all over the year. We can tell this person that we have known this person over the year.
Mr. Yusuf, you're standing on the fence here.
No, the military are from outside. They are not
but let's be honest with ourselves. On matters of national security, you have also said that
I said they should go nitty-gritty because they don't know these people.
Hold on, Mr. Yusuf. I'll remind you, because just last week you said on matters of national security, not all information should be discussed in...
Even today, this morning, I've said it. What I'm just saying is that...
So what are we saying?
Based on what happened with JAMB,
but JAMB is not a national security matter.
I'm telling you, education is more of national security matter than anything.
All right, Mr. Yusuf, let's not dwell on this. I see your adamant on your position.
Education, as at how we manage information or how we educate our people, is very...
Yes, there's a correlation between...
security and education.
I agree with you, but on this matter, you're standing on the fence.
Education is a national security matter. People who take arm against their nation is because of lack of education.
All right, let's leave that. Let's come to projections by the World Bank. Now, with the rebased GDP in the country, the statistics that have been reeled out by the NBS as to where inflation is, and the decline on paper, the World Bank has also made its projections now. The World Bank is saying that in 6 years, or no, next year rather, there would be a 6-year commodity price fall. Just next year, 2026. It didn't specify if this will cut across sub-Saharan Africa, but it seems to be in tandem with the projections that the government has given in terms of the fall in price of commodity. I'd like to get your analysis on this as well.
You see, the position of Nigeria in the global stage and the inherent, we have about 1 million square kilometer of land, and 70 to 80% of this land are arable throughout the year. And God has blessed us with a lot of water body that does not run dry throughout the season along the River Niger, River Benue, and its tributaries. So in this economy, if the Nigerian space has the right of first refusal in terms of continuous farming throughout the year, all we just need is the willpower of the government to provide all the incentives and mechanization that will drive this continuous. And this government has taken that bull by the horn, that all year round farming. Then the president is particular about supply. He said when there is continuous supplies, if the demand increase, all you need is to continue to supply the market. That's the philosophy of ASUU-led administration in terms of agriculture and other produce. That the price are soaring high over the year. So the moment you continue to supply the supply chain, and when the supply outweighs the demand, in elementary economics, it says that the price will go down. So Nigeria is positioned to make sure that in the sub-Saharan Africa, that's why when they say if Nigeria sneeze, the rest of Africa, not even the sub-Saharan Africa, will catch a cold. It's because of our position and vintage. The only thing that we need to do is to tackle the insecurity head on, so that when there's security in the land, the farmer can go back to farm. All value chain of agriculture, from horticulture, poultry, and other things, Nigeria have the advantage. We have the land, we have the technical know-how, we have the manpower. Like we have all of our landscape university system that offer agricultural course to the best international standard are prevalent. So, and if the government can continue to support this as it is doing now, I know that the projection made by the World Bank will be sustained, and Nigeria will be out of. And the price of food, as at yesterday, a bag of rice was 120 now is 60,000 naira, and before you know it, they will still come down further, and then the value of our money, when the price come down, the value of our money will continue to appreciate. What I just call on the government is that to continue to support the real local farmer, not paper local farmer that we had in the Ankoborowa days, people that just have name on paper, collected money that was supposed to be for planting of rice, and the rice was not planted. And the rice, when we started producing rice, and the price of rice now go up because we are not producing enough to meet our demand. So going forward, to sustain this particular projection, the government must put its eye on the ball, and all hands must be on deck to make sure that that particular value chain continue to soar high, and so that the price modulation will continue in that stride. I think if I get your point.
Well, now it's on the part of value addition.
Yeah.
Once you're looking at a drop in commodity prices, you would agree with me that currently, if you have to transport whatever commodities from Kano to the south, you deal with the bad roads.
Yes.
You deal with the illegal taxation, despite a new tax regime starting in January.
Yes.
A lot of stop and pay dues.
Yes. Agbero taxation.
So all this has also taken a twist on what the prices are in the market currently. How does the government checkmate it? You know, earlier this year, I don't know if you recall, it was with you I discussed it.
Yeah.
The order to remove such roadblocks, but those roadblocks still persist when you ply the roads in Nigeria with people collecting illegal taxes.
You see, that's where the states comes in. All states, even local government, should be production centers. First, you produce for local needs. Then you produce excess for export.
Are we exporting really?
Yes, there's some commodity we are champion. We have by design and nature, we are the largest producer of some commodity in the world.
But shouldn't we have factories in here? Someone was taking it up with the Benue State government the other day, saying a food basket of the nation should have at least two juice factories.
Aliyah-led administration has done that. We have Benue juice will soon be in the market. They are doing a yeoman job. They have a very big factory. In Mina, the shea butter factory is coming up. We are the largest producer. Because
just borrowing from your comments that we should produce for local consumption first.
We have a long year of hangover in terms of productivity, and shadow economists, the portfolio investors who buy off company. When we started our privatization, we started in a wrong footing. We do not go for productivities. We just go for marketing that are supply driven. In as much you got the supply, we are not looking at where the supply is coming. Like when we started with cement, the supply is just for some people to take over the market without looking at the local content initiative, so that we will bring it in. If any state have comparative advantage in production of cement, why would not that state provide cement for its own people? Why must they wait for a particular company to provide? That's why Benue cement in Boko was a thing of the past. Ashaka cement was a thing of, Sokoto cement was a thing of. Those companies should have been sustained by a capital driven by government regulation. A capitalist market driven by government regulation, not a capitalist market driven by private regulation. When private people regulate the market, the price will always soar high. But we can run a capitalist that is government, the policy will be driven by government. When we run such a capitalist, Kogi State doesn't have any reason not to own a cement industry because of the level of all the rare earth needed for the production of cement. In fact, one of the 3 biggest private cement company were in. So as a way to take care of the state, the state can do comparative advantage. There's no reason why a state like Rivers and the Warri refinery should not be functioning, because the closeness to the source of raw material, when you get the crude oil, you move it, the cost of moving it will be removed, and the price in that particular locality will come down. So there's no reason why a Bayelsan should buy petroleum or should not have accessible to finished product that are petroleum.
Just borrowing from that.
Yeah, comparative. So that's even prices of commodity are interrelated with energy supply, which is the petroleum. So if the petroleum products are cheap, movement of goods and services will be brought down, and it will have effects on these are value chains that are interwoven. So we going forward, we must continue in that stride, and I think this government is on a trajectory to make sure that Nigeria is placed on a pedestal of success in terms of that particular value chain.
All right, let's come down to another economically tied debate. It's on bank credit to the private sector. Yeah. Report is that it has dropped by 6 trillion naira in 4 months. Yeah. Does it have to do with the bank recapitalization? Why is the private sector finding it difficult to access capital from the banks?
When the present governor of Anambra State started the consolidation of the bank and go for capitalization, the banking system in Nigeria is not the best universal banking practice. They wait for money from people that have the liquidity to put it in the bank. They are not driving, the bank are not driving, Nigerian banks are not driving the Nigerian economy. And they give the rich. They normally give loan to the rich because most of their loans are tied to collateral and other things. So if somebody who is rich collected the money, he can go on spending spree because he has a capital, he has something that the bank can follow. You understand? I can collect 10 billion, and if my property is worth 10 billion, and the evaluation of such property may not up to 10 billion. But since they normally allot their money to the private, like let's look at sport, for instance. In other climes, places like England and France and Spain, you know that how much football generates on a weekend to the economy of those countries. How many of the Nigerian banks have invested in the Nigerian football club? And that's what results in the reason that you see in the Africa intercontinental space, Nigerian clubs are not doing well because the resources you need, the wherewith you need, and the technical expertise you need to employ to grow the football league, to be at par with its contemporary around the world, is not prevalent. Let's leave sport. Even the agricultural space they are talking about, how many banks has taken bull by the horn to have investment in the agricultural space?
So you're not satisfied with the level of input of the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture?
If we are students of economics in school, and we know what a bank should be. That definition of banks in the academic sense is not practicable in the Nigerian sense. Like now, when we are growing up, our parents force us to have bank accounts. My first bank account, every month they normally return 11% of my savings to me. I will see it anytime I go to the bank and check my balance. I'll find out that I have 11% increase in the money I left the bank for more than 3 months. That's when I started banking. That's the way Nigerian banks operate. Today, that particular concept has been bastardized. Today, if you put 10,000 in your bank account and you go back after 3 months, if you meet 5,000, and nobody will be able to explain to you as to, they will bring up so many charges, and before you know, so they are waiting for you to bring money for them to make money, but they are not investing in businesses that will bring more money to the bank. And if they will invest, they will normally look for established businesses and names to give money to. And this is not a universal best practice. It affects our economy because the banks are not giving the rights. They are not expanding their own scope. Look at banks now. If you go to state capital, you will see the banks. During the COVID-19, and there's need for mopping up in the last election, when they are talking about this Naira redesign, and they say everybody should go digitize. The digital footprint of the banks is not even enough to start the digitalization program. Even their branches, after state capitals, I bet to tell you there are some banks. If you go to the state capital, that's where you find them. You cannot find them in any other local government in some particular state. If you try to do a proper investigation, there are some banks that are not present in some state capital in Nigeria, and they are national banks. So the footprint of our bank is here to commiserate with the scope of our economic potential. We are still lagging behind. The banks are not driving, enough force to go into small scale businesses, like graduates who are willing to go into businesses, the graduates who have technical expertise, this Silicon Valley, emergence of Silicon Valley and high-tech industry. How many of such economic space are banks investing in? They have investment in MTN, Econet, and the likes. Even those companies, because of the way they are operating, some of them have, like Etisalat now is and
let's not dwell on so much on mentioning brand names. I know to buttress your points, you might want to.
No, what I'm saying is Intel, the Nitel, Nigerian National Agency for Telecommunication, they have facility that when we go into mobile telephony, they are supposed to be the trailblazer because of the facility. What they need,
infrastructure on
ground. All they need is for bank to give them. They sold it off to someone who maybe have other interests, and before you know, Nitel and the mobile phone.
Okay, I see what you're trying to.
Now, so the banks are not doing enough business to be able to be on the right footing. That's why anytime they go for capitalization, they scramble and mop up the money that's in their system to recapitalize, and before you know, other businesses that are depending on them for survival will be stifling of fund.
Now, the traditional and commercial banks now that you've largely described in some dismay as to how their performance is, are also facing stiff competition from fintechs. There's a rise in online banking alternatives for Nigerians, most of whom transact their day-to-day businesses using these fintechs and online platforms. Jettisoning commercial banks. One, they lament the levies the electronic transactions come with, for the fact that even in terms of the speed in receiving transaction alerts, they seem to prefer these fintechs. Do you see this as also a stringent factor that is affecting the performance of banks in Nigeria?
You see, there is legacy in everything. The real definition of the term banking in Nigeria, to some extent, has not been living up above board. You see, when the technicalities of this telecommunication comes in, they now see it as an easier way to divert away from their major role of banking. They have so many things they could do away from the technicality. ATM machine, for instance. You go to the ATM machine. How many of the ATM machine now you can probably move into and put your ATM and get money? So the fintech industry that came on board is to assist the people. They go to the bank, mop up the cash, stand on your street. It costs you, it reduces a lot of costs. I've told you that the spread of this bank across your special location. Now, if you're banking with, say, Bank A, before you can see the branch of that bank, you have to move a long distance. So, and that is a machine close to your house. Which one will you rather want to, even the cost of reaching out there? So the banks are not exploiting the potential of the Nigerian state to do their business. They are comfortable, they are sitting in their comfort zone, and the banks are supposed to be the risk bearer of the economy, which they are not living up to. And that's the instance about the banking. Anytime the government look at recapitalizing the banks, they have to follow about the money they have in the system. When they mop it up, surely businesses that depend on them will have a clock in getting anything that.
Now in closing, so that we do not dwell on blaming the banks.
I'm not blaming them.
I'm heading somewhere. I'm heading somewhere.
Factual.
So that we do not dwell on blaming the banks alone, because they do not work in isolation. They are governed by the Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria, who takes it upon itself through its MPC meetings to peg the key statistics that regulate interests, that also determine returns on investments through the MPR, MRR ratings, and the ratios that cut across board, the CR as well. What do you, would I call it, the advocacy would you put to the current CBN? Because we saw a marginal decline sometime last month. What would you say to the CBN in order to make a case for the private sector to get more of this capital?
You see, the banks are the clearing house for all the money we spend. Your salary comes through the banks. You want to save, you go to the banks. So they must the regulatory body who is in charge of the banks must push the banks to go and look for potential area. I've mentioned sport, I've mentioned agriculture. There are so many areas that the banks can go into, monitor their investment, and coordinate economic activity using the banks as when we want to do the anchor borrower. The money go through the banks, but the bank was not paying a supervisory role as to how this money will be recovered. And when the money go out, the said people just vanish with the money. So what I'm saying is that now what the government is doing, coming up into this new tax regime, and I think they are working with the central banks in that regard. All we need to do is that all businesses, small scale, are registered. When you have more registered business, then the cash flow into that business can be properly monitored. Then if you see how a business that is doing well, government can put funds based on the capacity of that business, let's say 5 million, 10 million, and as the business grow, they should be the key watcher even of businesses. If the banks play that role, there will be more liquidity in the bank because people will use the bank because they become a partner in progress with the bank. But when you go to a bank and you have a proposal that can fetch money and the bank said, no, you go and bring collateral, and maybe you are a fresh graduate who has not worked anywhere to even own a property. Nigerian banks are no risk taker, and no banking system that cannot take risks have the chance of surviving.
Well, in closing now, it also boils down to the SME sector because there's still a key component of the private sector.
Yeah.
How do they source for capital? Angel investors? What are the alternatives?
You see that, that one certain day here I said that if something is not possible, Nigeria will find a way of doing it. People are forming, like this fintech, there are LAPO, there are some banks in their community effort. Since the mega banks will not do it for them, people are formed, even in government places and establishments, that are cooperatives. If the organized or the system will not help you, people will find a way to come together and help themselves. And some organizations are like grave diggers who normally start from the top instead of from the bottom. You must go to the root if you really want the plant to grow. But in some spaces, they normally start from the top, and as such, they will kill those beneath. So if the community can now find it, the community within those settings, since the top will not take care of us, they come together, and the roots, they say, okay, let's form cooperative, they do contribution, and they empower themselves in that regard. So Nigerians have the tenacity and the wherewith to survive at all costs. And that's what drives most of those small-scale industry at times. Community gather money for someone that is not employed, starts small business. And as such, it's another value chain that I think the banks should really look to. In fact, it's in there, like we have agricultural cooperative banks. So if you have a cooperative, you approach them. So this smaller unit can be, then that's why I normally advocate for full autonomy to local government, because they are the last resort of the people, and that's where the people live, in the local area. So if the local government is empowered, all these banks they can find their way into those local government, and they will work with the financial secretary in this local government, councillor of agriculture, councillor of health, and other things, to make sure that all those SME, because the SME are the life wire of those local government. Another key area that they should look at for investment is transport. Nigerians do a lot of communication on a daily basis. We move around a lot. So as we move, we use cars. These cars use fuel. Even this filling station that we are talking about are always concentrated in the urban center. If you want to travel, the moment you leave the landscape, or if your fuel is not, your tank is not filled, or you're having a problem with your carburetor and car, before you know it, if your car stops somewhere in between the next big town, you can hardly find filling station. So all these are areas that the banks can sponsor to SMEs to thrive along that corridor. There are so much potential in the Nigerian landscape that the banks can explore, so that we can have a balanced financial ecosystem.
Well, Mr. Yusuf Muyideen, thank you for your comments on the program this morning. We appreciate you for lending your thoughts to the discourse.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice being here, and good morning once again, viewers.
Always a pleasure. This is where we draw the curtains to a close on our current affairs-driven dialogue on the program this morning. My name is Beat O'Brien, thanking you for choosing to start your day on ADBN Television.